Powerful story through the eyes of a black woman in America. The airport lights were just as bright as usual, but the air inside was cold. Not a technical kind of cold, but a coldness in attitude, in atmosphere, in the silent, calculated stares that seemed to whisper, "You don't belong here." Tanya, a 42-year-old African-American woman, was flying from New York to Atlanta. She had recently been promoted to a managerial role in her company and was on her way to attend a major conference. Her natural hair was neatly styled, her blue blazer and black slacks crisp and clean. She looked like a confident, accomplished woman. She arrived early at the airport and passed through all security checks. Her ticket read priority boarding. She was part of the first boarding group. Not just an ordinary passenger, but a professional, experienced, self-respecting woman. But everything changed in a single moment. We're now boarding group 1, priority, business, and first-class passengers, the agent announced cheerfully. Tanya, knowing she was in that group, walked up confidently, presented her ticket, and headed toward the gate. But the agent gave her a long, frozen stare. "Where are you going?" "This is my group. I have my ticket," Tanya replied politely, showing her phone with the boarding pass. The agent glanced at the ticket and then looked Tanya over again. It was a look that weighed her skin, her presence, her very identity. "Please wait a minute, ma'am." "Not yet." Tanya stepped back and stood to the side. But moments later, a white woman behind her showed her ticket and boarded without question. "Why was she allowed through?" Tanya asked softly. The agent looked away. "She's in a different class." "You can't go yet," she replied and turned back. Tanya couldn't believe it. She checked her ticket again. Everything was correct. Even the confirmation email from the airline clearly said priority access. Could this really be just a mistake? A cold sensation crept under her blue blazer. Her mind shouted, "Stay calm, don't argue, this is discrimination." But some invisible force silenced her. Because in America, being a black woman means always being polite, always being patient, always having to prove yourself. Eventually, after most passengers had boarded, the agent closed the gate. "Sorry, you're too late now," she said curtly. Tanya stood there in shock. "What? I was here first. Why did you hold me back?" "I didn't say anything. You just waited," the agent said with a smirk. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a smile that said, "Your voice doesn't matter." That day wasn't just about missing a flight. It was another moment in a long, painful pattern. Another time a door had been closed. Another moment where she had to explain, to justify, to claim her space. That's the daily reality of a black woman. Tanya went home that day, but something in her heart broke. She shared the story on social media. Blogs and news outlets picked it up. Some supported her, others were skeptical. But most importantly, the world heard her voice. Later, Tanya created her own platform to fight against discrimination faced by black women in aviation, business, and education. With the slogan "Closed doors make noise too," she brought dozens of women together. Each shared their own closed-door stories. Each revealed the invisible barriers they had faced. Tanya was no longer alone. She didn't just reject the idea of finding a window when a door closes. She created a new philosophy: make them reopen the door. Because some doors don't shut by accident. Some are deliberately closed. But every closed door can become the start of real change. Tanya's door became a door that opened the eyes of a nation. Here is the English translation of your story, now polished and grammatically correct. Let me know if you want it styled for publication, turned into an op-ed, or adapted for another medium. No open door. Even after Tanya returned home that day, she couldn't find peace. She sat in the soft blue armchair tucked in the corner of her room, running her fingers through her hair, lost in thought for a long, silent stretch. Outside the window, life went on. Children rode bicycles. The neighbor watered her flowers, but Tanya's world had stopped the moment that airplane door closed. She didn't sleep until nearly dawn. A voice inside her echoed again and again. "Why me? Why does this keep happening?" She could have brushed it off as a simple mistake. But this wasn't the first time. Like every black woman, Tanya carried hundreds of these small stories inside her heart. A teacher once told her, "You're not as smart as you think." In college, a professor said, "You're too emotional for this class." And at her last job, her manager said she was a little too aggressive, all because she raised her voice once. The airplane incident was just the culmination of them all. A week later, Tanya joined a local group called Black Women in Aviation, a collective that shared the stories of Black women who had experienced discrimination in travel, aviation, and beyond. It was a platform to amplify their voices. She shared her story with the group. Among the women was 56-year-old Brenda, who tearfully recounted, "It happened to me too. I was sitting in the fourth row when a flight attendant said, 'We don't want to overcrowd first class. Can you move to the back?' Just because I was Black." Tanya listened with her whole heart. She realized this wasn't just a personal incident. This was systemic. That same night, she opened her laptop and published her story on Medium. The article was titled, "The Door Closed on Me, and It Wasn't an Accident." It was raw, vivid, grounded in facts and emotion, and told from her lived experience. Within 24 hours, more than 10,000 people had read it. Comments poured in. "This happened to me too. This story brought me to tears. My mom's a Black woman. I stand with you, Tanny." Hey! A week later, NPR invited her for an interview. Tanya wore her soft blue blouse to the studio. This time, she didn't hide her voice. For the first time, she said this publ. "Ikely, I didn't get on the plane, but now my voice has reached the skies. Because this wasn't just about me, it was a snapshot of the system. We can't stay silent anymore. We have to make noise at every closed D." Or, following the interview, the airline issued a statement. "We apologize. An internal investigation is underway." But Tanya wasn't looking for an apology. She demanded action. She issued 3 demands. The creation of a dedicated oversight committee for passenger discrimination cases. A hotline for direct reporting in such incidents. Mandatory anti-discrimination training for all employees. Reluctantly, the airline agreed. Tanya launched her movement. The Open the Door Initiative, a campaign to open doors, raise voices, and protect Black women in America. As part of the initiative, she created mentorship programs to teach young girls about travel and confidence. They started a tradition, buying plane tickets for first-time travelers and accompanying them on their first flights. A few months later, Tanya booked a ticket, same airline, same city, same flight. This time, the door was open. Staff greeted her by name. One agent smiled and said, "You taught us a powerful lesson." Tanya smiled back. As she stepped through the door, she paused and softened. "Why said, when you closed that door, you thought you were blocking my path. But I turned that door into a wall and pinned a billboard on it. Now the whole world is what? Ching! Not the end, but the beginning." Tanya's story isn't over. Because across America and around the world, doors are still closing. But with every Tanya, every voice, every no, a new yes is being fought for. Now, every time a door closes, a new movement begins. Because this isn't just Tanya's fight, it's all of ours. Although the airline had issued an apology, Tanya was still waiting for real action. 2 weeks later, she noticed that no concrete steps had been taken. She realized the statement had been nothing more than an attempt to calm public outrage. So she was forced to act. She reached out to Deborah James, a highly experienced civil rights attorney based in New York. Deborah had handled dozens of cases like this and was a well-known activist defending the rights of women and minorities. Tanya presented her story with documents, timestamps, locations, and evidence. She even obtained security footage from the airport, which confirmed the moment she was initially called to board, showed her presenting her ticket, and then captured the door closing. These videos were obtained through a formal request. Deborah reviewed everything carefully and said in a calm voice, "This is textbook systemic discrimination. Maybe it happened just once, but your case could open the door for countless others." Within a few weeks, they filed a formal complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EOC, the U.S. agency that handles workplace and service-related discrimination. Tanya's claim, combined with public support, caused a powerful stir. Meanwhile, Tanya's article was republished by major outlets like the New York Times, BuzzFeed, and CNN Opinion. Some journalists even refer to her as a modern-day Rosa Parks. But Tanya didn't embrace that label with pride. I just didn't want to be left standing at the door. I couldn't sit in silence, because if I do, the next Tanya will stay silent too. I have to open this door, for good, she replied. 3 months passed. The EEOC began investigating, requesting internal emails and staff reports from the airline. Among those documents, one email stood out. A flight attendant had written to their supervisor. We didn't think the woman was first class. They usually sit in the back. We realized it too late. The door had already closed. That email wasn't just evidence in Tanya's case. It was a glaring reflection of the hidden racial biases still embedded in American society. Once the email went public, the airline responded by announcing the termination of that employee. But Tanya and fellow activists pushed BA. CK, this isn't about one person. It's about an entire system. Don't forget the T. In response, major airlines like Delta, United, and American Airlines issued official statements committing to mandatory retraining for all staff on cultural sensitivity and bias awareness. It was a win for Tanya, but she had set her sights even higher. 6 months later, Tanya was invited to testify at a congressional hearing. The session focused on the treatment of Black women in aviation and other public services. She sat alongside other women who had faced similar experiences. Some were teachers, some doctors, others were simply mothers. Tanya spoke softly, tears in her eyes, but her voice was SD. Edie, we always have to prove our tickets are valid. And still, no one believes us. We always have to remain calm, because if we get angry, we're labeled aggressive. Enough is enough. We won't just open doors anymore. We'll build them ourselves. VES. The hearing was broadcast publicly. Her testimony was shared among student groups, community organizers, and echoed throughout the media. 1 year later, Tanya launched her own nonprofit, the Open Skies Foundation. The organization was built to support minority women in travel, career advancement, and public life. At the foundation's first annual forum, over 500 women attended. For many, it was their first time flying out of state. Tanya greeted them all and Dee said, if someone ever shuts a door on you, remember this. You hold the key. Just you. See it. That closed airplane door had become a symbol of a movement. It wasn't about hatred. It wasn't personal. The system simply didn't recognize her face. But that unrecognized face has now become the face of a new era.